So today we're going to talk about why you should be buying an APU in 2022. So get some snacks ready, you have 3 seconds and let's roll the intro. Now let's dive straight into it. Why should you be buying an APU out of all things in 2022? First, I have to clarify what I mean by APU. I do not mean AMD's usually lower powered, last gen kind of weird chips that they produce. What I mean is Intel CPUs that have a graphics chip in them, which Intel has been making forever. And while a lot of people think that you can save a couple of bucks by buying an F-SKU CPU that will basically remove the graphics chip out of the equation, that is a horrible idea. Let me tell you why. With 11th and 12th gen, and even with 10th gen, Intel has done amazing things with their graphics chips. Even though they're not very powerful when it comes to gaming or stuff like that, what they can do is they're really good at decoding and encoding footage. Now, while graphics cards like an RTX 3080 Ti or 3080 are incredibly powerful for most scenarios like gaming, streaming, they're amazing for those types of use cases. But what they can't do well is encode and decode footage. And you maybe heard of hardware acceleration. So what hardware acceleration within these programs is able to do is not only take advantage of the chips that are in your graphics card, which can decode and encode footage, but also use your CPU's graphics chip in tandem with your graphics card. So even if you have one of the most powerful GPUs in your PC, you will still benefit a lot by using an Intel CPU that has a K behind it, or at least not an F. The Intel CPUs that support all of the good codecs are basically the 12600K, 12700K, and 12900K. All of those, especially in Davinci Resolve, will support pretty much all codecs. And for that, let's take a look at Puget Bench. They've made an incredibly nice and well-written article about why you should be buying an Intel 12th gen CPU if you're doing video editing. Let's look first at Davinci Resolve. Out of all media programs, they've really excelled in implementing hardware acceleration. And we can see H.264 is not very well supported. You only have 8-bit 420 that is supported all across the line, albeit RTX 30 series, 20 series, even Nvidia's GTX 10 series supports it, as well as AMD's 5000 and 6000 GPUs. But if we scroll down to H.265 codecs, the picture changes quite a lot. There we can see that suddenly Intel is taking over by a long shot. With RTX 2000 and 3000, we see here and there a few codecs are being supported, stuff like 8-bit 444, 10-bit 444, or 12-bit 420 is supported on RTX 30 and 20 series GPUs, as well as 10-bit 420. But if you look at the Intel side, suddenly all of the codecs are supported across the board. From 8-bit or 10-bit 420, 10-bit 422 supported, 10-bit 444 supported, 12-bit 420 supported on 12 and 11th gen as well, 12-bit 422 supported, and 12-bit 444 supported on 30 and 20 series as well as 11th gen and 12th gen Intel CPUs. Now let's head into the chart for Adobe Premiere, where sadly it does not look quite as promising as with Davinci Resolve. And I have to say, I've heard from a lot of people that this is one of the reasons why they actually want to switch over from Premiere to Resolve, just because of the timeline performance, especially when you're shooting in, high res like 4K, 6K, 12-bit, that is really hard to digest for your computer. Most people I know, if they're shooting 10-bit 422 and do not have an Intel 12 or 11th gen CPU, they'll have to use proxies. They'll have to sit and encode the whole footage into something more digestible, be it ProRes or make proxies out of it, and then they can only start working. In Premiere, we see the same two codecs supported all throughout. 8-bit and 10-bit 420 are supported on all platforms, be it these GPUs, 20 series, wherever it is, all nice and good. For H.264, we can see the same thing as with Davinci Resolve. Only 8-bit 420 is supported across the board on pretty much all platforms. But again, when we scroll down to H.265, the picture changes again slightly compared to Davinci Resolve's support. But even here we can see that one of the most important codecs is supported in Premiere Pro with Intel's new 11th and 12th gen CPUs, and that is 12-bit 422, which pretty much everybody who's using newer mirrorless cameras is probably shooting in 10-bit 422. As a matter of fact, I'm shooting this right now on my GH5 in 10-bit 422 as well, and editing this kind of footage, especially when we're talking high res like 4K, 6K and upwards, is incredibly tasking on your PC. So you usually need an incredibly expensive PC to edit that footage if you do not want to go through the process of encoding footage and making proxies or making it a ProRes file, which usually is a lot easier to digest than all of the compressed file formats. I linked the Puget Bench article that I'm referencing down below, so you can check that out as well. They also have this incredibly nice test that you can do yourself with their test assets that you can just download. There's an instruction within that link that tells you exactly what to do, so don't be afraid, it's actually really easy. So much for that. I hope you're going to have a much better time editing your videos now in both Premiere and Davinci Resolve, and see you guys in the next video.